I watched Paxton lawyer shred a witness. I don't know anything about this trial hardly. Can you give the reasons why? Who's behind it, and for which reasons? We'll probably cover it in a little more detail on Sunday's show. But the bottom line is Paxton has been one of the best populist attorney generals in the country. He's the one who led the challenge to the U.S. Supreme Court on the 2020 election. He's been good on tons of issues. The first problem is within all the legal community as a group. And you'll hear me come back to this quite often, which is that the professional managerial class, near monopoly on power in the world, culturally, economically, and politically, is, in my view, the greatest danger that we face because they are an ill-equipped group of people to have that degree of power by the manner in which they attained it, by the background in which they have had limited life experience, by which they come from the educational institutions. That's their credential for being there. And so as someone like Paxton takes over the Attorney General's office, I can guarantee you 2/3 of those people in there, well, more than that, 95% of them will be anti-populist. You can guarantee that right off the boat. The few Republicans will be establishment, Trump-hating Republicans, anti-populist groups. So there's been efforts to go at Paxton for years. So they try to get him on some bogus criminal charges. Then they tried to leverage the fact that a person under investigation reached out to him for whether or not his office could do something against what this individual claimed he was being wrongfully targeted by the government, federal government in this case. He gave a personal opinion on it, but that was it. There was nothing illegal about that. There was no quid pro quo. There was no bribe. Nothing. So instead, there was some hit pieces written by the Austin American-Statesman, and the people in his office that hated being part of a populist attorney general's office claimed whistleblower status, and were the ones that instigated this whole thing. They had no evidentiary grounds to do so. They got a huge check because they were the case would have been tried in Austin. So there's a problem with state capitals. Legislatures should remove state capitals as jurisdiction in these kind of cases. And then they piggybacked on that for impeachment. While all this was before the impeachment ever came about, the timing of the internal coup attempt was paralleled by George P. Bush, Jeb's kid, who had gone to Texas, the half-Latin, and he was supposed to be the future of the Bush family political pedigree. They figured, there's this growing Latino, Hispanic population in America. Jeb will marry in and produce a half Latino Bush, and boom, we'll be able to continue it. Poppy Bush came from the New England tradition, moved down to the suburbs of Texas and pretended he was Poppy the Populist in 1988. George W. grew up in Texas as a good old boy, totally fake, but, buys the Texas Rangers, pretends to be an oil man. So he was the second really the 10th generation if you go back to that family on both sides. But in electoral politics at the presidential level, the second really is the third version because Prescott Bush was a prominent senator, and prominent in politics. And so then they picked George P. Bush, and around the same time as this come out in the Paxton trial, as this internal coup attempt, all of a sudden George P. Bush goes back and tries to get his law license so he can run for attorney general. He gets crushed by Paxton in the primaries because the Texas Republican electorate has moved, like the whole Republican electorate across the nation, massively in a populist direction. So unhappy with that, they decided their next coup attempt, all the prior ones failing, was to impeach. And they had enough corrupt political Republican leaders in the Texas House and Senate for it to be sustained. I think given how bad the evidence has come out live in front of the Senate, Texas Senate, I don't think they can convict. So we'll see.